Am I wrong for making all the women in my family leave my wedding after they showed up wearing white? I, 33 male, have a large family, mostly aunts and female cousins aside from the mom, stepmom, stepsister, and grandmother. I don't know how to say this, but all those women I mentioned above are into teasing and joking. They formed a unit, which I admit is kind of toxic, and they tease and roast every new woman that enters the family by marriage by setting up tests to see if they deserve to be part of the family, or roast their looks and styles to the point of breaking confidence and self-esteem down. Then, after a few months of teasing, they announced that they finally welcomed them into the family. The newest member would join in on the teasing too. When I first introduced my then girlfriend, now wife, I made it clear that I didn't want any of the women in the unit to come at her or harass her, not even with a single word. They went behind my back and roasted her looks and job, and I discovered they've been doing it on Facebook. I made them apologize one by one after they gave the "we're just testing the water to see if she's capable to be part of the family" excuse. They didn't want to apologize, but once I said I wouldn't invite any of the unit unless they apologized, including my mom, everyone immediately apologized and brought gifts for my wife. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. There was talk about the woman in the family wanting to pull a prank on my wife by wearing white and called it the ultimate test to see how my wife would react. My brother warned me, so I announced that if any one of them showed up in white, I'd have them kicked out, including my mom. They said this wasn't true and they'd never do such a thing. But they showed up to my wedding day one by one wearing white dresses, and each and every one of them was told to leave after they tried giving excuses by either making scenes or getting the men involved. The senior women of the unit, who are my mom and aunts, also showed up in white but refused to leave. I threatened to take harsher action, and my mom was pissed, telling me to step aside, but I didn't let her in. I had her leave while the men in my family were watching stunned. Dad was on my side and supported me a lot. My wife was hurt beyond measure, but the women in the family were pissed. My cousin blasted me on social media later, saying I excluded all the women from the wedding because my wife was so insecure she couldn't handle another woman's presence at her wedding. I felt absolutely awful because my wedding was being interrupted by them making scenes. I had an argument with them, and my mom berated me, saying it was supposed to be a prank, but I said they were taking it too far. My mom said I took it too far by kicking them out because they were trying to get a reaction from my wife to see if she was one of those bridezillas and were going to change as soon as the prank was over, but I ruined my own wedding, an entire wedding, by reacting so aggressively. I stopped talking after she said I had to bring my wife and apologize. I haven't seen the lot of them in 2 weeks and they've excluded me from everything. So was I wrong for how I handled the situation? Absolutely. Oh my god, look at this. Absolutely not. Your wife is one lucky woman to have a man stand by her like that. Like, applause to you. Good job. Am I wrong for blowing up at my dad for asking me to pay for a family dinner? I, 27 male, lost my mom at 15 in a road accident. I was a fairly airheaded kid in school and was great academically. My dad, 48 male, remarried to Isabel 10 months later for my care. The 2 years after my mom's passing were extremely hard on me. Isabel was temperamental with me, sometimes nice or almost ignoring me. She had a son who was 2 years older. We practically had no relationship as he moved for college around the time they got married. When I was 17, I was going through old pictures. I ran into some domestic pictures of Isabel and my dad. I realized many of them were from Seattle. Only time my dad was there was when he had been working on site for weeks the year before my mom died. There had been a fight between my parents about the on-sites not bringing the family extra money. I realized that my dad was probably cheating on my mom with Isabel prior to her death. I don't know if my mom knew this, though I think so. I kept it quiet because Isabel was pregnant with my stepsister at this time. I found out later that year that my mom had left me as her sole inheritor, which was quite some money. Her parents' inheritance money and 50% of the house. This had helped me pay for college. My dad challenged this will, causing some delay in executing it. Some words were said about my mom, which I didn't like. My dad also had taken $6,000 from my account. I let it go because I honestly was happy to have money for college. After moving out of state to college, I've been low contact with my dad. I had a court wedding due to COVID and have a 7-month-old now. 2 weeks ago, I was in town and my dad decided to meet me and my family, which I agreed to. It was at a nicer restaurant in town, and along came Isabel, my stepsister, and Isabel's son, his girlfriend, and 2 kids. The dinner was good until Isabel brought the house up and mentioned my stepbrother's wife losing her job. I deflected this to a private chat with my dad. No fucking way am I giving it up. This made the conversation much more difficult. When the check came, my dad asked me to take care of the bill and I refused, asking them to split it. I had no idea everyone was coming and had no contact with any of them prior to this. My dad started to bring up how I had a nest egg and my mom babied me. Suddenly, my stepbrother said, "Dude, just get it, you'll be fine." I kind of saw red at this moment and I told him to shut the fuck up and that my mom gave me the money because my dad was an adulterer. Isabel got in the middle and asked me not to talk to my dad like that, and my wife tried to calm me down. I said I don't want anything to do with this family and to keep our relationship just between me and my dad. Anyways, more words were shared and I handed them the cash from my side and left. My wife said I shouldn't have acted like that but still had my side. So was I wrong here for my reaction?
My friend's boyfriend called me up once and said, I'm trying to buy flowers for Nicole. I feel stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. She told me she likes carnations. And I said, don't worry, I've got you. She might have said she likes carnations because she actually likes them, but she might have also said it because they're the cheapest flowers and she doesn't know what your budget is. Don't buy her the yellow bouquets. Those are for your sick grandma in the hospital. And the rainbow bouquets are what a dad buys his 9-year-old daughter. And he was like, ha! And I said, just go for like deep, rich tones. And he said, okay. And he picked out a bouquet and he carried it to the cashier and he said, do these flowers look like flowers you'd give your sick grandma? And the cashier said, no. And he was like, perfect. Then he called me up again later to invite me to go ring shopping with him because he wanted to secretly propose to Nicole. And it was so fun, but I didn't know that there's like a secret language to buying diamonds. We got in there and he done all his research and he said, okay, this one's a little bit too yellow. And I told you that I didn't want a princess cut or a halo. And they would look at me all confused and say, what does the lady want? And I was like, oh no, we're not together. He just puts up with all this because he wants to marry my sweet, mentally stable friend. I was no help at all, which is probably why he ended up taking her other best friend ring shopping, but then that best friend let it slip to Nicole that she was getting proposed to, which put me in a very awkward position because Nicole kept asking me, has my boyfriend said anything to you about him wanting to propose? And I was sitting there munching on my cookie from Wilson's Diamonds like, no, he hasn't told me anything. So when she found out, I had to be like, oh, this is brand new information. I am hurt that he told your other friend and not me. And she said, that's just because he knows you're such a loyal friend that you could never ever lie to me. And that made me want to die. I immediately texted him what she had told me and I was like, I hate you. And he said, just try to keep it a secret for a little longer even though it's already out. Don't ruin this for me. I've been planning my engagement since I was 5. And I was like, that's weird, but okay. Also, if you ever want to feel like you're living in a musical, be best friends with a love-struck ballet dancer. Because when she found out that she was getting proposed to, we were on the sidewalk outside of Ross and she started like prancing and spinning. So they got married and then they moved in next to me as my neighbors, which was fun and weird because sometimes I would like go knock on their door to borrow some vanilla and they wouldn't answer, but I could hear Harry Potter playing really loudly and I was like, come on guys, I know you're having sex in the blanket fort right now. One morning they invited me over for a birthday breakfast and when I walked in there was this beautiful bouquet on the table and I said, hey, good job picking out Nicole's flowers. And her husband said, no kid, I picked those out for you for your birthday and to thank you for teaching me how to pick out flowers. And I was just like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. When I was only 6, my parents abandoned me with my aunt and uncle for an entire week so they could go to Hawaii and make a sister that I never asked for. And while I was outside playing with my cousins, I fell down and I scratched my arm. So I went running to my uncle crying and I showed him the scratch on my arm and he said, oh no. And I said, can I have a Band-Aid? And he said, no. 6-year-old me was like, what? And my uncle said, are you bleeding? And I looked at the scratch on my arm. I was like, no. And he said, Band-Aids are to stop bleeding. So if you're not bleeding, then that means that you don't need a Band-Aid. So no. That was 20 years ago. And to this day, I'm just like, what the hell, Mark? Who denies a crying 6-year-old girl a Band-Aid? It wasn't about the Band-Aid. My father had the audacity to abandon me with a perfect stranger who he was raised with, and you won't even give me a Band-Aid to patch together the pieces of my life? It is a good thing that my parents were off making a bonus daughter to replace me in case I had died in my uncle's neglectful care.
Am I the asshole for calling my brother's wife a neglectful, financial, irresponsible wife? My female 32 brother, male 36, had a serious accident in a truck 4 years ago. He became disabled and wheelchair bound. My sister-in-law used to be a stay-at-home wife. She's currently handling his care and is essentially living off his Social Security benefits, which isn't a lot. But my parents pay for the house's mortgage, so there's enough money to get them by. My sister-in-law and I never really got along, but we stay civil. However, my biggest argument with her happened days ago when she told us she was going to pursue her old job again to be able to earn money. My parents and I were confused and asked how she was going back to work when she has my disabled brother to care for. Am I the asshole for calling my brother's wife neglectful and financially irresponsible? She said she's hiring a carer to handle my brother's needs. I said she chose to become a stay-at-home wife. She said she has to go back to work and that a carer is better qualified to care for my brother since she feels overwhelmed and exhausted. I point out that a carer requires so much money and her new commitment of a job can't be put before her husband. She argued that she's the one in the situation and that I'm judging from a distance. I argue that this is my brother we're talking about and that I also help with the mortgage. I called her a neglectful, selfish, financially irresponsible wife for throwing my brother's money away on a carer when it's unnecessary. She was shocked and said I needed to show empathy. Am I the asshole for telling my friend to never come back to my house after he called my mom a Karen? My friends came over to my house for a movie. My mom had cancer and lost her hair, and she's been wearing a pixie cut wig until it grows back. My mom came downstairs to bring us popcorn, and when she went back upstairs, my friend laughed at my mom's Karen cut. He said it makes her look old and like a Karen mom. I got very mad and said that my mom had cancer and she's in remission and her hair is still growing back. Then he laughed and said, "Too bad, the only good Karen is a dead Karen." I called him a POS and told him to leave forever. My mom found out because I was crying, and then I had to explain what a Karen is and how it's a slur for middle-aged women. None of my friends are on my side and they're saying I'm a dramatic loser.